Welcome back to Prana Dive. My name's Turk, and today we're going to do another Grumpy Instructor Reacts video. This is another video from the Circle H Scuba YouTube channel, which I believe is based out of North Carolina. This video is titled, "These 2 Easy Techniques Improve Buoyancy." But as you know, first we coffee, if it's open. So, what do you say we get grumpy, shall we?
Are you struggling to control your buoyancy underwater? Well, you're not alone, but the solution might actually be easier than you think. And in this video, I'm going to share 2 simple techniques that can make a big difference in your buoyancy control. Whether you're a complete beginner or a more advanced.
Get off the bottom, get off the bottom, get off the bottom. I know what they're doing here. It looks to me like he's doing the fin pivot. There's better ways to teach neutral buoyancy than the fin pivot. That's my story and I'm sticking to it. I'm going to die on that hill. Let's keep going.
Diver, these tips are easy to pick up and can quickly improve your diving experience. So, what are these techniques and how fast can you see a difference? Well, let's get into it. I'm Thomas Hughes, a professional scuba.
Very quick. I like that. His intro's fast. Doesn't need to be more than 3 seconds. Longer than that, people are skipping it anyway. As you know, the people that have watched the Grumpy Instructor videos, I don't just comment on the content, I also comment on the creator and how they create their videos, because I do the same thing. So far, great intro, like that. Let's listen to him.
Scuba instructor. And on this channel, you'll see videos on scuba education, equipment, experiences, and environmental awareness. So let's talk about buoyancy. Buoyancy control is something that all divers struggle with at first, but it's also something that you're going to be working on refining and improving as you gain more and more experience, change gear configurations, and stuff like that. So let's go ahead and start by diving into what these 2 techniques are and why they work so well to improve your buoyancy quickly. Now, to explain these, I'd like to use a couple analogies to make it a little bit easier to think about. So for the first one, let's think about a car stereo system, or like the car radio, basically. When you want to adjust the volume on the radio, it's not just a matter of like the off-on button of like the volume's either on or it's off, right?
Okay, I see where he's going with this. Probably not the analogy I would use, but
right, it's not just hitting the mute or the power button. You can actually turn that dial up and down and make small fine-tune adjustments to find the perfect balance for you. But how does that relate to diving and buoyancy? Well, this first technique is all about breath control, and just like the radio in our car, it's not a matter of just holding your breath or not holding your breath, right?
well, we teach everybody not to hold their breath. It is one of the biggest lies of scuba diving. The key is don't hold your breath while ascending, but yeah, for beginners, just don't hold your breath. We'll keep going.
Or a matter of breathing or not breathing. When you actually take small, slow breaths in, you cause a gentle upward movement. And when you exhale slowly, you'll slowly start to descend. If you fine-tune your breathing to inhale and exhale just the right amount, just like you are slowly adjusting that volume knob, you essentially hover in the water instead. Just slow in, slow out, fine-tune adjustments, and suddenly you'll start hovering. You can actually practice this easily just by focusing.
Okay, I know this was in another video I covered of his. What is this? Why is that? First of all, this is terrible side mount. You can see that the side mount harness is way too high up on him. Or it's almost hitting the back of the head. It's not adjusted properly. Valves are twisted on the actual side mount cylinders. Cylinders are not just out of trim, but its body position is wrong. So if we're framing this from my axis method, immediately stop, come to the surface. We have to make lots of changes. He's not part of the system. He's wearing this stuff. And it's hard to tell. There's so much wrong. You just have to make one change, move, one change, move. But it also doesn't help that he's arching his back. Arching your back is not what we want. It needs to relax his shoulders. But now let's talk about the big thing here. Look at that deco cylinder. That's just dangling off of you. Like it's just out in the middle of nowhere. Why? The hose isn't cleaned up on it. That's a disaster. It's an absolute mess. And you're an instructor. Do better, be better.
On controlled, smooth breaths rather than taking big gasps.
What was that finning? Oh, maybe he was trying to demonstrate a shuffle kick, but you could see that he wasn't even proper trim. That's really bad. I have students that look better than that on dive one.
Severe, and then quickly dumping that whole lung. If you imagine for a second, think about filling your lungs from like halfway to 3/4 full, not all the way full. Then as you exhale, you do that slowly and evenly as well, and maybe exhale to only 1/4 full instead of completely dumping your entire lung. As you practice, you want to try holding your position in the water column. So you can do this by starting a little bit deeper first, so your adjustments don't cause as much movement up and down because of the extra atmospheric pressure around you as you're deeper. As you get better,
I actually disagree. I believe practicing buoyancy in the shallows first is better for you. Is it more difficult? Absolutely. But if you can dial things in the shallows, you're well on your way to having a higher skill level. It's really easy to be neutrally buoyant at 12, 15, 18 meters. It's much more difficult to be neutrally buoyant and hover in 3 meters of water. Train hard, dive easy.
better, you want to move shallower and shallower, and you'll slowly start to improve, and you have to continue to practice as you get shallower as well. Holding position in just a few feet of water or just 1 or 2 meters of water is probably the most difficult due to just how little pressure is on us at those depths. So
no, has nothing to do with how little pressure is on us. It's the change in pressure as you move up and down. The pressure differential is greater in the shallower depths. So that pressure change means buoyancy is more difficult. The pressure differential in deeper depths is less when you move up and down. Therefore, you get less expansion of gas and less compression of the gas. That gas becoming more dense and less dense, expanding and compressing is much less the deeper you are. It's greater the shallower you are. So you said it right earlier, and then you kind of misstepped here. Make sure we're giving the proper information.
oh, yeah, it's much easier to hold your position when you're deeper at 60 feet or 18 meters instead of, 1 to 2 meters or just a couple feet instead. Don't get frustrated, just keep practicing and you'll notice improvements over time. But what about the other technique? For this one, I want you to picture a torpedo shooting through the water. It's smooth, it's flat, it doesn't have anything dangling on it, it's streamlined, right? And it has very little drag when we move through the water. And streamlining is what we call it in diving as well. And as divers, we want to be as streamlined as possible.
Ooh, hold that thought. So you're talking to us about streamlined. Let me just go ahead and refer back to this earlier moment in your video, shall we? That's not streamlined at all now, is it? You know what? Someone sent me an email the other day, and it was a really nice thing to hear. And I'm not doing this to toot my own horn, but they said that it's great that I talk the walk, which I've never quite heard it put that way, right? It's really, if you talk the talk, you have to walk the walk. But I see what they were saying, right? Saying I don't just talk about these things. I don't talk about diving at a high level. I don't talk about proper buoyancy. I don't just talk about neutral static stability. I actually do these things. These are things that happen every day in my diving. So you can talk about these high-level concepts and these high-level skills, but if you can't do them, what good is talking about them do for you? So he's talking about streamlining, but showed us a video of him where streamlining was clearly nothing, not a thought in his mind. We have to be better. And you're the creator of this content. He didn't have to put that video up of himself on there. That's twice he's used it now, at least in 2 videos that I've seen. Why? Why keep using that video? You know what? Reach out to me. And if you don't want to do it publicly via this comment section here, reach out to me on my Instagram, anywhere. It's really easy to get a hold of me. You can find me all over the place. It's not difficult. And tell me why you chose that. Give me your thought process. Or if you need help, I'm happy to help. Happy to give you some tips. But don't put those things in there. If you're going to talk about streamlining, show us a properly streamlined setup.
So to get into that proper position and be streamlined, first we want to make sure things aren't dangling off us and,
You mean like your deco cylinder. Oh, FFS. Coffee. so I don't throat punch people.
Are uptight and things like that, but there's actually diver position as well. And we kind of have a proper dive position that you want to keep. And that could be things like having your arms tucked in. You don't want to use your hands to scull in the water. Sculling is like flapping your hands. So to keep yourself from doing this, especially for beginners, I'll tell them hold your BCD straps or cross your arms and sit like that instead. You can also...
I disagree. If we look at diving as a system, which is what I'm doing in the axis method, the diver's part of the system. And there is a pivot point on every diver, the fulcrum, the center point, right? You can actually, and this is how I teach, we can actually use our arms, whether we move them out a little or move them in a little, to adjust where that center point is. So if I'm feeling a little, if I'm a little leg heavy, if I move my arms, my arms are here, or I'm holding my hands here. If I move my arms out a little, that changes that fulcrum. Moving out a little will now cause me to come back down this way. It might not completely correct, but it's close. It's the same thing with our legs. If your legs are at a 90 and you're a little head heavy, if you bring out your legs to a 45, it's moving that point on your body. That's what proper setup of the BCD, your weighting, the type of fins you're wearing, all these little things that are part of the system, but you're also part of that system. And we can use you in that as part of that system to really dial in your trim. So I disagree with having your hands down here. I think it makes it harder for divers to be in the right position.
In the water, sculling is like flapping your hands. So to keep yourself from doing this, especially for beginners, I'll tell them hold your BCD straps or cross your arms and sit like that instead. You can also just put your arms down to your side. Sometimes that doesn't work for people and their hands are still free, so they do things. But this will allow you to keep your hands nice and tight, arms tucked in, not causing extra drag as you're swimming through the water.
One of the things that I picked up from an instructor when I was in the United Arab Emirates, Chris, actually used to make his divers, especially in the advanced course, would make them hold a broom handle. He had a section of a broom handle. If they started sculling, nope, boom, here, hold this. And they would hold it out here throughout the entire dive. Now, sometimes you would see them try to scull with the broom handle, which is always amusing. But then you just say, no, 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 hold. And that really helped divers to stop with the hand sculling. They became comfortable getting that normal position, and it worked really well. So that's one kind of trick that you can use. I don't agree with grabbing the straps. I'd rather have them in that diving position. Because also if your hands are here, you can't see your computer. If your hands are here, maybe you can. I want to be here so I can quickly glance. All the information I need is right there.
Next, you want to try to align your body in a flat position from head to toe and actually look kind of just slightly ahead rather than straight down. You might find that you need to like arch your back a
No. First of all, yes, stop doing this. Stop, divers, stop looking down. Bring your head up, all right? We're gonna look where we're going. Yes, you can scan down and see what's below you, but look where you're going. If you're looking forward, you're going to see more on the reef. If you're looking down, you're gonna see stuff as you're passing it. But don't arch your back. Stop telling divers to arch our backs. This is not skydiving. We don't need that arched back pose. That skydiving pose of arching your back does not give you a clean, straight line from shoulder to knee, which is what we want. A horizontal line that's completely straight from our shoulders to our knees. If that's angled in any way or curved, we're not in the right position. The system is off axis. That axis being, there's two axis lines, right? There's what in the machining world we would call our x-axis, the vertical axis, and then our y-axis or horizontal axis. Now you're off the y-axis. That's not what we want, but stop telling divers that. If the system is configured properly and we're moving our weighting in the right spots and our gear is sized properly and everything is adjusted just right, there's no need to do that arch. What you're now doing is you're compensating for something that isn't set up properly.
A little bit, so like arching the back a little bit there and keep your core tight as well to hold that position. So it can be a bit tiring. It's a little bit of an exercise in its own, but
it also causes you to get out of the water with a sore back. And I say this because I used to tell people to kind of arch a little bit. And I learned over time that was terrible because I was doing it. That's how I was taught, not by my advanced instructor, Brendan, shout out to you, but by someone else. They were telling me, hey, make sure you arch your back a little bit, arch your back. My lower back was sore after every dive. Yeah, maybe tighten the core a little bit, but really what you want is you want to hold just a little bit of tension in the glutes. Squeeze the butt. Now, not squeeze it super tight, like you got to go poo and you're trying to hold it. I'm not right. But just a little bit of tension there in the glutes helps. And it also helps relax the lower back so you don't get out with a sore back after a dive.
Over time, you'll become more and more efficient at this, and it'll be more natural for you to slip right into that position. These techniques are great, but you're probably wondering, how quickly can they really help me, and how quickly can I actually expect results when I start using them? Let me actually tell you a story about that. So I actually worked with a diver in one of my buoyancy workshops, and for anonymity's sakes, let's call him Mark. Mark was a new diver with about 10 dives total, including his initial checkout dives for his open water class. Like many new divers, he had been struggling with buoyancy, and every time he tried to stay still, he found that he had to kind of keep kicking and circling around or use his hands to kind of steady himself and stay in position.
All right, I try to stay away from agency stuff, but this is definitely an agency thing, right? There are many agencies that look at buoyancy as a specialty, as something you got to keep working on and working on and working on. Buoyancy, and you've heard me say this before, buoyancy is not a specialty. Buoyancy isn't a skill you learn later down the line. It is a foundational skill. When you're learning a sport, let's say hockey, they don't tell you to learn to ice skate later. No, you learn to ice skate. Skating is a foundational skill. All right, every activity you do has foundational skills. Buoyancy is the foundation of scuba diving. If you don't have proper buoyancy, you're not a diver. I'll say that again, you're not a diver. You're someone swimming through the water, but you're not really a diver. That's one of the reasons I do love teaching for RAID, because there is no buoyancy course in RAID. There's no specialty. We as RAID instructors are required to make sure we help you get your buoyancy dialed in the open water course. Now, are there instructors for other agencies out there doing the same thing that are looking at buoyancy as a foundational skill? Absolutely there are. So I'm not bashing other agencies. That's not what I'm doing here. I'm giving you my experience with RAID, why I do love them, why I think that they're getting it right here. But I know many instructors that are, maybe not many. I know that there are plenty of instructors out there that teach for other agencies that also focus on buoyancy as a foundational skill. And it's something that you learn right in the open water course in your confined water training. All right, that drives me crazy. Let's keep going.
When we started working together, Mark was eager, of course, but he got frustrated too. You know, he started thinking like, man, I'm just never gonna get the hang of this. And all those doubts creep in that I'm sure a lot of us have had, especially when we first start diving.
Yeah, that's the thing. So as divers, the easier it is, or maybe not as the easier it is, the more comfortable you feel in the water, the more apt you are to continue diving. If it's difficult, if you're struggling, you're probably gonna give up on it. It might be 20 dives, 30 dives, 40 dives in. It could be 6 dives in. You're like, I just don't want to do this anymore. It's too hard. I don't like it. I don't feel comfortable, or I don't feel safe, whatever that is. As instructors, it's our job, at least I believe it's our job, to make sure that your divers want to continue diving for their entire lives, right? Show them how wonderful it is. Show them how comfortable it can be down there in the ocean. Make sure that their entire system is set up properly so that on the dive, they're worrying less about their buoyancy and controlling things, and they can really focus on the marine life and just doing the little checks that we do. Where's my buddy? What depth am I at? What's my end? You know, the little glances that we're always doing on our dive, but really focusing on having fun and enjoying the marine life down there.
Now, for this workshop, we did quite a few different things, but we really started by just focusing on 2 simple things. These 2 simple techniques I've talked about here, his breath control and body position. At first, he was overthinking his breathing and, you know, trying too hard, and basically that caused him to kind of take like deep breaths and then big exhales. Like,
I used to do that. Yoga breaths, they told me. Breathe like you're in yoga. As someone who has spent the last 16 years with a daily meditation practice, and someone who's dabbled in yoga on and off over the years, I understood that. It was terrible for my buoyancy. I could hold position, but I was always thinking about my breath. It wasn't until my instructor, Marine, got me to stop thinking about it. She used to dance with me underwater. She'd say, stop. We'd get vertical and start dancing, which I thought was weird. Right? But what it did is it got me to stop thinking, got me out of my head. And then she'd say, hey, go swim over there and look at that clownfish. And I'd swim over, and there's actually a video somewhere of me, and I swim over, And she showed me the video afterwards. She goes, look at you. And I was in trim, not moving up and down. We talk about that half meter. It was way less than a half meter. It was the first time I was like, wow, I look great. I was shocked. And I wasn't thinking about my breathing anymore. I wasn't trying to do these big breaths. I was just breathing naturally. And I think that's the key when we're diving is just breathe like you're on land. Just breathe naturally. Always, of course, make sure that you're exhaling a slight bit more than your inhalation, right? So if it's just, for instance, if it's a 3-second inhalation, you want a 4-second exhalation to make sure we're clearing the CO2 out of our systems and we don't get CO2 buildup, which is something I used to do at times. I'd get headaches because I wasn't exhaling enough. So post-dive migraines, which suck, by the way. 1 star, do not recommend. Yeah, these big breaths can be terrible. My tip, just relax. Try to breathe naturally underwater. You can make small adjustments to your breathing to make your adjustments to your buoyancy, but keep your breath as natural as possible.
Big steady inhale, big steady exhale. But I told him that just like adjusting that volume knob on the radio, using that same analogy, we want to make subtle little adjustments instead, not just big twists of the dial. As he practiced, I could see it started to click with him instead, and Mark was able to hover without much effort. After just a short time practicing, he could actually stay in position. He didn't have to keep kicking, he didn't have to scull with his hands anymore, and he was able to more or less stay in that nice position for us and just kind of hover in place. This led to him being a lot more confident and also kind of put him into a streamlined position, but more importantly, it gave him techniques that he could practice on every dive going forward, because now he knows kind of the drills to go through, the thought process to go through, and the things to look out for that allows him to practice this going forward. And as an instructor, that's one of the things I really try to do is give tools to divers so they can practice it on their own versus me forcing them to try to get mastery right in front of me. I want to make sure they can do something well enough to standards and be safe and be...
Don't the standards stay mastery? Pretty sure they stay mastery, but I digress.
Good and have fun, but give them the tool set and the mindset that they can move forward and keep getting better and better over time. Now, the good news is many divers, in my experience, are just like Mark, and they notice these improvements almost immediately when they focus on just basic techniques. I mean, really, sometimes just a few minutes or even 1 or 2 minutes of just having this conversation, getting in the water, and then boom, they're better. But maybe you're not a new diver. What if you're a more experienced diver, or maybe you just haven't been diving in a while and you're trying to get back into it? Are these tips going to help you as well? Luckily, these are tips that you can actually apply no matter what level of diver you are, because buoyancy is something that you're always going to be working on as a diver. Whether you're very experienced or you're brand new, these 2 techniques are going to help you, and it's something that you probably focus on naturally if you are more experienced. For beginners especially though, controlling your breathing and building confidence underwater is going to make you a lot more comfortable, relaxed, and help not only with your buoyancy, but actually like things like air consumption as well. And for more advanced divers, the better your buoyancy and trim, the better your air consumption will be as well. It's going to give you a better experience overall. If you're into videography or photography, it's going to help you there. And as you continue into more types of diving, buoyancy again is like that key thing that you're always going to be working on. There's always room to improve your buoyancy and make your dives even smoother. Now, these tips can really help any diver improve their control and stability underwater.
I don't know if there's always room to improve your buoyancy. There comes a certain point where it just happens, right? Now, there are ways to improve your stability, and that is something you can always work on. I've talked before about the no fins practice. Want to see how much you use your fins underwater to keep yourself stable? Take them off. You will notice when you take them off that you might start having a little bit of a roll, right? You're pitching to one side or the other. You might even find that now you're suddenly leg down or head down because maybe you're using heavy fins or you're using positively buoyant fins. Take those fins off and see what happens. Stability is something you can always work on. The more stable we can be in a static position, the more in control in the dive we can be. I love no fins training. It's one of my favorite things to do. I do it quite often on dives. I'll just take my fins off. People are like, are you okay? Yeah, I'm good. Just practicing. If you can be stable, so being what we call neutral static stability. I think Steve Davis has another term for it. I can't remember what he calls it, but basically you're hovering and not moving anything, right? You're in one spot. Do that. And then what I like to do from there, once I can establish that neutral static stability, then work on your frog kick, your back kick, and your helicopter turns with no fins. Now, obviously you're not going to move very far with a frog kick without fins, but if you can accomplish a good frog kick without fins, think how more efficient it's going to be when you put the fins on.
but there's even more to learn when it comes to truly mastering buoyancy. To learn even more about buoyancy control, watch this video about why divers break the #1 rule in diving and how it can actually help you with your buoyancy as well. Click or tap the screen now to check that out, and with that, stay safe, have fun, and let's go diving.
Okay, you didn't see the video there because I actually downloaded this video. Was having some issues with the software I was using to do the live stream, or not the live stream, but recording it while I was reacting to it. So I just downloaded the video. I still didn't watch it beforehand. That's why you don't see another video there. All in all, not a terrible video, right? Good points. I think he's made some mistakes here and there, but he's on the right track. But I think if you're going to be an expert, you're coming off as, you're presenting yourself as an expert on YouTube here. Hey, I'm an expert, I'm an instructor. These are the tips I'm giving you. You need to make sure that your points are accurate. You need to make sure that the tips you're giving them are going to be beneficial for them in the long run and not detrimental. Like the arching the back, detrimental. Talking about streamlining, but showing us you and what I can only describe as far from streamlining as humanly possible. So be better, do better. The Grumpy Instructor is the role that I took on for this video. Obviously, I'm not really grumpy, a little grumpy in day-to-day life. But if you look at the reviews from my students do love training with me. They love spending time with me outside of the course. I always tend to like to go out with my students after the course is finished, kind of celebrate all the hard work they put into them. So check out my reviews. You'll see that I'm not as terrible as some of you think I am. Not that I care what you think, because I'm just going to keep doing me. I appreciate you watching. Like, subscribe here on the Prana YouTube channel. It's not going anywhere. This will continue, just another person. Make sure you go over to Side Mount Authority, follow me there. And as always, safe diving.